Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN-TV Political Report. I'm Paul Lisnick. After leaving office in 2021, Donald Trump faced a long list of legal challenges, including an indictment over classified documents and his role in trying to overturn the 2020 election. Now back in power at the White House, Trump has directed his DOJ and FBI to investigate those who had investigated him. A new book details how Trump's rise to power has transformed the nation's top law enforcement agency. It's called Injustice: How Politics and Fear Vanquished America's Justice Department. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists and co-authors Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis join me this morning to talk about the book more. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being with me.
It's our pleasure.
Carol, let me start with you. You know, I've trained the DOJ for 20 years, and as I understand it, their motto is to investigate evidence without fear or favor. But when it comes to the January 6th matters, it turns out through your investigation, both of you, that the DOJ and the FBI were kind of sitting back and letting Congress do the work.
That's right. When Biden won the presidency and appointed Merrick Garland as his attorney general, Merrick Garland believed that the best way to restore the faith that the American people had in the Department of Justice after Trump's presidency was to be above politics. So above politics as to have no impression or perception or appearance that they were doing any bidding to try to help a particular political party or ideology. But the result was that department avoided the open source evidence that Donald Trump had engaged in a federal crime, interfering in a free and fair election. And the first people to really investigate that with any vigor were members of a quickly formed little mini U.S. Attorney's Office. It was an investigative team hired by the January 6th committee in Congress.
And Aaron, it seems as though not only was this sort of a perfect storm of events, including this desire of Garland to not look political in anything that they were doing, but then you have the June 2024 decision by the Supreme Court, the presidential immunity decision, which certainly changed the wave of things. And then you get this indictment and investigation, I should say first, into James Comey. Is that now a warning to DOJ, to FBI, that they're in a different world today?
Well, they're definitely in a different world. That was really clear. Toward the end of our book, we get into that first 100 days inside the Trump administration, the second Trump administration. And, you know, from the get-go, you're seeing, of course, anybody involved in the investigations of January 6th and classified documents, they're being summarily dismissed or wholesale moved into other units with very little power and very little investigative authority. There's this moment inside DOJ very early on where Trump goes to have a press conference, and they set up this stage inside the DOJ and pump in his old campaign music and YMCA, and the new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, stands up and says, "We're so lucky to work at the directive of Donald Trump." And some jaws hit the floor around DOJ because it's just a different message than they've ever heard before. You know, typically when a new Attorney General comes in, it's, you know, your oath is to the Constitution, to the American people. Here it's a very different setup right now, and they're being very clear about it, that the Department of Justice operates at the will and behest of the President of the United States and what he wants done.
You know, Carol, people who aren't lawyers might think, oh, this is going to be a dull book. I'm never going to get through it. The truth is, it reads so well and so story-like that I have to ask you a question. You both worked with Bob Woodward, and you have in your writing style this ability to sort of be the fly on the wall. And I thought to myself, that's what Woodward does so well. You worked with the guy. I'm going to just be blunt. Did he give you some tips on how you create that atmosphere in the book?
I'm indebted to Bob Woodward because the first time I ever wanted to write a book, I asked him for his advice on what to do, and he was very generous. You know, we had a lovely lunch at his gorgeous home in Georgetown, and he told me, you know, his way of corroborating and confirming scene. Not exactly my specialty, but Aaron and I both set out in this book to bring to life this revered institution. You can say to yourself, oh gosh, it's a bureaucracy, who cares? But it's a living, breathing institution made up of people who have a lot of passion for this work. It's a calling, and their arguments and their stresses and their debates in those rooms were riveting to us. The moment when we tell a scene in the book where FBI agents in the Washington field office are resisting doing a surprise search at Mar-a-Lago, despite really overwhelming evidence that Donald Trump is not complying with a federal subpoena to turn over records, these classified records that may be in his private residence. And the prosecutors are also in this meeting saying, you got to be kidding me. We've got to go down there. For anyone else, we would search this, and we have probable cause to believe this crime is in progress. That argument is writ large a theme throughout the book, where some people are very worried about tangoing with a president for legal reasons and also for the reasons that are coming true today, which are that he really goes after people. He personally targets individuals that caused him pain or investigated him.
Let me jump off of that, Aaron, and come to you, because obviously the DOJ's job is to protect the rule of law. It appears, and based on what Carol is saying too, that there's almost a difference in the mission now of the DOJ and FBI, which is now their job appears to be, we must protect the president. I know you interviewed over 200 people for this book. Did you get a sense from them that, yes, they sensed that change in their mission? And plus, secondly, DOJ people and FBI people don't like to talk. So was it an extra martini over lunch? How'd you get them to talk?
Well, you are right. It's hard to get folks in DOJ to talk historically. We really did try to talk to a lot of different people, and no one we really spoke to for this book believes that the Department of Justice today is the same Department of Justice that it was even just 10 months ago, 11 months ago. It is a wholly different place. And, I think one of the good things you can take from this book is that, people did speak to us. They felt that, what is going on is so important for the American public to take a look at, that they opened up and told us about events that were taking place inside the department in a way that they really hadn't done. Typically, Department of Justice speaks only through its court actions, and we're all familiar with that term that the FBI neither confirms nor denies investigation is going on. But, the department itself says now when they want to investigate somebody and they'll say it out loud, we're going to go investigate that. And so that has opened up, I think, a new way of, and folks who have, historically not talked about, to share what is really going on in these investigations.
Carol, you cover sort of a variety of areas. And so I know your work touches on things that work and that you've written about so many different things. Is there a concern among the DOJ and FBI today? I'm thinking of your work in Zero Fail with the Secret Service. Is there a shift in the impact and in their morale when it comes to the fact that now they're thinking less about terrorism and attacks on the country because they've been shifted, so many of them, to immigration areas? Is that a fair statement to make?
I think there's a lot of fear, and it's on a scale, Paul, right? There are some people that are pretty panicked about it, and there are others that are mildly concerned. But I think everyone's got to worry about, especially in the Department of Justice, in specific offices that we report on regularly, the Southern District of New York, the Washington U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, the Eastern District of Virginia, these high-volume offices, which have been devastated by the forced purge and firings of agents that supported their work and then prosecutors themselves.
Yep.
I mean, a slew of January 6 prosecutors all walked out the door for doing what? Their job. The same thing with agents. So yes, and then on top of that purge and people leaving because they're disconsolate about staying true to their mission and don't feel that they can under this administration, on top of that, a third to a half of agents at any given time in some offices are being deployed to immigration roundups, not what the FBI is either trained for or particularly interested in, but the administration is insisting that happen.
All right, I thank both of you. So much more to talk to you about, so many questions I have, but we're out of time. Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis. The book is Injustice: How Politics and Fear Vanquished America's Justice Department. Fascinating read. Congratulations on incredible investigative reporting, and I thank you both. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. More WGN TV Political Report coming up after this.